Hospital Porter's pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV. And welcome to this UFO Disclosure 2023. And this is waiting for the hearings. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. We are in a very interesting situation indeed right now because, we have as you know, and we've been talking about this for a while, we are now less than 24 hours away from what could be the most significant event in the history of UFO research. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. British Summer Time, there is going to be a hearing in the United States government about UFOs. This is the House Oversight Committee is going to hold this particular event. This is the this is going to be very different from this is going to be very different from any kind of hearing like this has happened before in a number of ways, which I will explain. The committee is going to be chaired by Representative Tim Burchett, a Republican from Tennessee, and it's going to hear testimony. It's very important. It's going to hear testimony from some very important witnesses. This is why, if this hadn't been happening, I would have been a lot less thrilled about all this. Other lawmakers, I love that word. I didn't hear that till a while ago. A lot of other lawmakers are going to be at the news conference, including Representatives Jared Moskowitz, Democrat from Florida, another Florida representative, Anna Paulina Luna, a Republican. This is bipartisan, as they say in the United States, which means it's both the parties are involved. Although, I don't. That probably is not as significant as many people think it is. But there has been some stonewalling. There's been some resistance. This is not going to be very straightforward, I think, because indeed Burchett has already reported that one of the committee's previous witnesses decided not to testify because they said they've been under pressure from the Pentagon. There is clearly some resistance to this within the defense establishment. The aim of this is what's interesting about this, because there have been UFO hearings before, and I'm going to go into the history of some of them. In fact, I've got a picture of one behind me. This is J. Allen Hynek, head of Project Blue Book, as you can see. You'll probably recognize him. And this is him at a press conference in 1969 at the report for the public. I forgot what it's called now. There was a hearing based on the Condon Committee. And this resulted, unfortunately, in the termination of Project Blue Book at the end of the year. But that's him holding up one of the photos. I think that's one of the Adamski photos. I'm not sure. And he's holding one of them up. Yeah. So I'll go into a bit more history, the history of this whole thing later. I'll give you a brief history because I think you're familiar with most of it. There's no need to go into massive detail. Excuse me. This one is going to be different, very different indeed, because Burchett has actually said he wants the federal government to release UFO-related records, and added that witnesses next week will speak frankly to the public about their experiences. Now, you've already heard you may guess who I'm going to talk about, who are the witnesses, and I'll be going into them in detail. You may guess who they're going to be. That's why it's exciting. A Department of Defense spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. That's probably Susan Goff. This is now Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Mark Warner told reporters he will be interested to hear what is said at next week's hearing. That's interesting. The Intelligence Committee is now behind us as well. And adding that in the case of his own committee, we try to treat every whistleblower with seriousness and respect. Last week, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat New York, and Senator Mike Rounds, Republican South Dakota, introduced an amendment to the annual defense policy bill that would seek to declassify UFO-related records. That's quite something, considering following the Gillibrand Amendment, which is kind of what has allowed these whistleblowers to come forward. And it says here, in May, a NASA panel tasked with studying reports of UFOs. Right, well, I'm not going to go to the NASA panel because that was boring. UFOs are often synonymous with aliens in popular culture. I think that's reasonable. But an initial Pentagon report found no evidence linking unidentified objects to extraterrestrial life. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, pull the other one. The Pentagon has received hundreds of reports of UFOs in recent years. And many of them appear to be drones and balloons. Yeah, of course. Drones and balloons are they're the new swamp gas, aren't they? Yes. All right. Well, we'll talk a little bit about this, because this is the reason. Why is this one going to be different? Because this one is the first hearing which essentially is exopolitical rather than ufological. There have been hearings before. As I said, this began in the beginning. There was Project Sign, set up in 1947, which Hynek was involved in. This was followed by Project Grudge and eventually Project Blue Book. Blue Book ran for a very long time, from 1948 to 1969. So Hynek had like more than 2 decades of experience on this. The guy behind me, he started off as a skeptic. In fact, he was an astronomer at a university, and he kind of did this as almost as a sabbatical, something for fun, a frivolity, a sort of like entertainment module. And then he was radicalized through weight of evidence. He was originally a skeptic, but he was radicalized by the pressure of evidence as a scientist. Now, you might think, well, we've just had a hearing, haven't we, Ben? No, we didn't. You're talking about the one where Sean Kirkpatrick addressed Senator Gillibrand and a couple of the others. Well, no, that was not a hearing, actually. That was a briefing. That was a briefing of Arrow. That was a public briefing by the Anomaly Resolution Office. What's it? Something Anomaly Resolution Office. And this was a briefing by the head of that guy, the head of the Arrow, to the Senate. That was not a hearing. A hearing, this is going to be a hearing. A hearing is different. Hearings like the one last year, the one with old Donkey and Conkerhead. The briefing, that was where you saw Brian Mulchy at a table talking to a whole panel of people from Congress. That is a hearing where the witnesses are sworn in. They have sworn testimony. The witnesses are put under oath. As I said, there's been a couple of these. For example, there was the Robertson panel. I won't go into big, long details about this, because, to be honest, it only really gets very interesting in recent years. This was a scientific committee met in January 1953, headed by Howard P. Robertson, and on the recommendation of the Intelligence Advisory Committee. There you go. And the CIA was involved, the U.S. Air Force, etc., etc., etc. Their conclusion was, it's the usual thing. Most could be explained as misidentifications of mundane aerial objects, and the remaining minority could, in all likelihood, be similarly explained with further study. Well, that's a very brazen assumption, but that's what they concluded. And then, of course, that was repeated more or less by the Condon Committee in 1969, where they just said basically the same thing. And that's when they decided there's nothing more of significance here to investigate, nothing really the government needs to interest itself with. So we're shutting down your project. This is despite the fact that Hynek's report included things such as your Captain Bob Salas. I don't know if that was in Project Blue Book, but certainly, though, a lot of red light appears outside a nuclear missile launch facility, and before you know, all the missiles switch off. That's America's strategic nuclear deterrent being switched off by a red light hanging around outside the building, or the bunker, the underground bunker. I mean, why is that not of defense significance? There's many, many other examples I could give you. So, but they just said, no, nothing more to look at. Nothing more to see here. We're going to move on. And then that was it, basically. That was totally it. And then 2011, there was a petition that went to this is where the skeptics, like mumbling and that, get it wrong. Right? They say, well, you will never be satisfied with anything, because the only suitable answer you will accept is the aliens are real. And when someone says they're not real, they say you're lying. But but the thing is, like, the reason we say that is there's good reason for saying this, because in 2011 there was the petition, the White House petition, where the White House we got over 100,000 signatures, so the White House was obliged to respond. And they stated that since Project Blue Book and since the Condon Committee and Project Blue Book, the US government has had no interest in UFOs at all. And then back in 2017, it was revealed we had that the ORSAP ATIP project came out. This is when Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal published their article. Yeah. Oh, Ralph Blumenthal. Funny thing about him is, I was on LinkedIn and he was recommended as a contact to me, and I sent him a request and he accepted. So nice one, Ralph. If you're watching, thanks for joining us, mate. So yeah, there was that I thought was very, very interesting. Because this essentially caught the government were caught with their hand in the cookie jar of lies. In other words, they were caught lying their bottoms off in a petition from the White House, because they had been investigating at least since 2007. They'd had another project to investigate with a budget of $2.5 million or something a year. And then, of course, eventually this resulted in the 2022 United States Congressional hearing. And this, of course, I reported on this in great detail. This was basically just it was not worthless, I'd say. If you remember my report on it, I did a live blow by blow deep dive into it. I wouldn't say it was useless, but it was basically, Bray and Moultrie, this Scott Bray, Ronald Moultrie was sitting there doing, basically, this was the United States House Intelligence Subcommittee on Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, and Counterproliferation, and lots of other counters as well, including bean counters, number counters, and all kinds of other counters, and shop counters, and things like that. And they basically gave Ronald Moultrie and Scott Bray the third degree and just said, look, we're paying you all this money. And this was when it was called AIMSOG, before it became Arrow. No doubt that name will change again. And well, it's funny enough, Tim Burchett was there. He wasn't involved, but he was in the public gallery. He was observing it, which is very, very interesting, which could explain why he's taken the line he has since then. And it was that was not, I wouldn't say it was disappointing. It was pretty much what I expected. Yeah, it was the usual umming and ahhing over various pieces of evidence and things like that, and saying, yes, Moultrie, most UFOs could be identified through rigorous analysis and investigation, but a number of incidents defy explanation. And he mentions the 2004 incident in the Pacific. And they basically ended with we will sit tight and assess, to quote that famous political cliche. So that was it. But then there was a private classified session after lunch, which we don't know what was talked about there. It may not. Actually, people have said, "Oh, I wish I could have I could sneaked in there and hid and listened to the classified session." It probably wouldn't have been that interesting. Actually, it's probably the reason it was classified was more like it wasn't because they said, "All right, guys, the cameras are off. Now let's talk about the bodies you've got in the freezer." It probably wasn't that. It was probably more they talked more about the details, for example, of the sensors on warships and aircraft, which are classified, things like that, which you can't talk about publicly. Not because they don't want the subject of UFOs to be more widespread, because they just don't want anyone knowing about the capabilities of those ships and aircraft. That's kept strictly private, so that enemy intelligence knows as little as possible about the capabilities of warships and aircraft. So that's probably all it was. So you've heard just a lot of detail about radar, electronic support measures, and things like that. Which you wouldn't understand unless you were an expert on the field. So that was the 2022 hearing. And then, like I say, this year's briefing address to the Senate by what's his name, Sean Kirkpatrick, was not a hearing. This one is different. What's going to happen tomorrow is distinctly different. This doesn't mean, and I know everyone's going to accuse me of saying, "Oh, Ben, you're being naive," and I know someone's going to say this. Why are you so certain, Ben, that we're going to get big D disclosure tomorrow? Why are you 100% convinced of this? I always get these kind of weird kind of marginalizations and misrepresentations from some viewers, but What will happen tomorrow, I think, is going to be very, very different. I think it's gearing up to be a hell of a lot more interesting, even if it doesn't deliver everything it's supposed to deliver. The reason is because this is, I said before, this hearing is going to be about exopolitics rather than ufology. All the previous ones were, like I said, what's out there. It could be summarized as what's out there, what's its significance, can we explain everything, what can't we explain, how does this benefit, or how is this a deficit to the United States national security? This is different. This is different. This is not asking those questions. This hearing that's going to happen tomorrow is essentially an examination by the US legislature of its own defense establishment. It's not asking whether UFOs are real. It's saying, well, okay, some of them are. I mean, all the people who've commented, such as Tim Burchett, Anna Paulina Luna, and everyone else involved, it says, yes, we know they're real. We know some of them can't be explained. We know that some of them appear to be the products of intelligence that is not human. What we want to know is what kind of information does the Defense Department, the defense establishment have? This includes private contractors, not just the military. What information do they have which they're keeping from the government and from the general public, which should be declassified? This means what that means is that I'm not going to go out on a limb and say tomorrow is going to be disclosure day, big D disclosure day. I'm not going to say that, but this is the first hearing we've had where the potential for big D disclosure lies within the scope of its agenda, which means it is physically possible we could have big D disclosure tomorrow. We probably won't, but we might. Yeah, so I am excited. I'm going to be watching it now. I know you guys are going to say, well, what are you going to live stream? You're going to live stream tomorrow evening, aren't you, Ben? Are you going to do blow by blow, deep dive into it, just while it's happening live, or just afterwards, or something like that? You're going to do that, aren't you, Ben? You're going to do that? No, I'm not. The reason I'm not going to do that is because I'm not going to be in Oxford. I'm not going to be at home. I'll actually be with friends. Now to be honest, if something really significant is revealed at this event, I will do something like that, because I'll have I'm taking my laptop with me deliberately, so I can, if necessary, if I can get online, I will do some kind of video or live stream. Okay, if it's necessary, if necessary being if we really do have if we really do have some massive, really massive revelation, massive bombshell, right? If that happens, yes, I will find some way to get online and do something. But the reason is I'm going to be staying with some friends because I'm going to the Glastonbury Symposium. Yes, so I did say, that when I was on the Isle of Man, I said, well, it could be that the hearings will happen while I'm there, in which case, I may not be able to report on them, things like this. And so I took my laptop for that same reason, so I could, if necessary, get online somewhere and do a live stream or do a video, do a commentary of some kind. And I will do that tomorrow or sometime over the weekend if that happens. But I think it's unlikely. I'm going to be staying with friends tomorrow evening, and then I'm going to be traveling with them to the symposium on Thursday. So that's what I'll be doing. But I'll be back Monday evening. Now, when I come, it's going to be, what I'll do is when I get back, I'll do some kind of breakdown or review of what happened. Regardless, even if it was really boring and dull, and there's not much to talk about, I will still do some kind of breakdown where I can take your questions and we can all talk together about what happened. And I won't be able to do that immediately because I won't be able to do that immediately. What's this? Someone's all right. I won't be able to do that immediately because well, when I get home, I'm going to have to do I'm going to do Third Rail. I will be doing a kind of breakdown on Third Rail Radio. So that'll be uploaded sometime about maybe 7 p.m. or something like that. At 8 p.m. I'm going to be on I'm actually going to be interviewed on another YouTube channel, Terry Joyce's channel, not my rabbit hole. You can check it out if you want to see it. So I'm going to discuss with Terry Joyce what happened in the hearing. After that, I'll probably be late at night. So what I'll do is I'll put up a notice for a live stream. Maybe do it. Let's have a look at my diary quickly. Yeah, maybe do a live stream Tuesday, the 1st of August. All right. We'll talk about this. Tomorrow I've got to work in the morning. Then I'm going to head down I'm going to head to meet my friends. What I'll do is I'm going to hopefully get a Wi-Fi signal on the train or on in some pub somewhere while I'm waiting for them, and I'll hopefully be able to watch the hearings live tomorrow. But I won't be able to say anything publicly about them until depending on what happens, until I get the chance to, and I won't bother unless it's something really significant. What I suspect, I'll talk a bit more about what I suspect it will be, but let's just have a look at some of the media. Now, obviously, I'm claiming fair use on all of this, but there is some interesting discussions here I want to go into, and I'm going to have to show a bit of News Nation stuff, and I hope they don't get all bitchy with copyright like they did before. I believe I'm covered by fair use and just showing these little news clips, so I'll just do that. Yeah, you should be able to hear this. Oops. Oh, the Hill. There's a lot of stuff on the Hill here. By the way, I might go into some of this now. These two. Let me just show you these two here. This is the Hill.
It's everything you wished for. Your site.
This is sister channel to News Nation.
A top official at the Pentagon disclosed that one of the top concerns among UFO investigators is, quote,
all sorts of information.
Right. I won't show much of this because this is these two people, these two young journalists here. I think they've set them up as a kind of Mulder and Scully double team. They have debates every time they discuss something. However, they have zero chemistry between each other, and it's all very contrived. So I'm not a big fan of this particular channel, I must say. So we'll go on to News Nation. Here we go. This is a News Nation I want to talk about. Hang on, UFO hearing 24 hours. This is. Oh no, sorry, that's Ryan. That's Post Disclosure World.
What's your take?
All right, that's not the one I want. Where is it? Here we go. This is the one. I hope you should be able to see that and hear it. I'm sharing system audio. Streaming audio is sharing your screen and audio. That's right. Okay. So where is it? Here we go.
Is there something more out there? For decades,
yes,
politicians have been reluctant to get involved in this topic, but now that's changing. Both Republicans and Democrats investigating the supernatural. So much so, the House Oversight Committee is holding a UFO hearing next week with 3 key former military officials set to testify. Correspondent Evan Lambert is live in D.C. So, Evan, there's some tension
what a weird-looking bloke.
This hearing.
Kelly, absolutely. Tension and sparks at a news conference just yesterday, setting the stage for this hearing, the first congressional hearing since groundbreaking claims reported first exclusively by News Nation. And that hearing, we know, will be on next Wednesday. It'll be led by Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, and the public will get a chance to hear from David Grush, an Air Force veteran.
That's important, right? David Grush is testifying. That is actually extremely important because David Grush and 2 others. I'll talk more about them in a minute.
And former member of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, he's the whistleblower who has claimed the Pentagon is hiding evidence of non-human origin spacecraft. The Pentagon denied there is any evidence of UAPs of alien origin. Also joining Grush, David Fravor, a former Navy commander who took video of a UAP.
He's quite well known, David Fravor. He's been speaking out since 2017.
And Ryan Graves, a former Navy pilot who reported multiple UAP sightings during flights.
Oh, right, Graves. I thought Graves was still serving. He's not. Okay, he's former Navy pilot, but he runs an air safety organization now, Ryan Graves, which is kind of like a good front for his ufological interests.
I trust a decorated war veteran.
There's Tim Burchett. He's so American. He's so American. Look at the guns behind him there.
Tells me that, in fact, hell yes, I saw it, and I've had retribution. Now these pilots tell me They'll be pulled off the flight line, and then they'll be debriefed, as they call it, which is BS.
If the Department of
That's really bad, actually, what he just talked about. I mean, I'll go into that in more detail probably later on, but I'm sure this is going to come out. But apparently, some of the witnesses have been intimidated by their employers at the Pentagon. Now, this is something that the Oversight Committee is going to campaign on, and hopefully, because these very powerful members of Congress are now supporting, they're not just throwing them under the bus, they are supporting these witnesses who's been intimidated. David Grush said he was essentially subjected to office bullying as a result of this. And it's been spoken open about, and they've been backed up by these people, these Congress people like Tim Burchett and this lady, Anna Paulina Luna, which means that things that happened in the past in which witnesses like this were thrown under the bus is not going to happen this time. These people can rest assured that powerful political figures are supporting them publicly and telling the world what's happened to them. So that I think is going to be a major turning point. It's very, very important development, that.
Air Force, if the Pentagon thinks that they're above Congress, they have something else coming to them. We told them we were going to do this if they continue to hide information, and ultimately the American people deserve the facts.
Oh my God. Are these politicians finally growing balls? It's about bloody time. It really is.
And Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, who you just heard from, also saying at that news conference that she and other members were turned away from an Air Force base where they were set to meet with Air Force pilots who have claimed to see UAPs. They described that.
Turned away from an Air Force base. This is unbelievable. This is like Harry Reid, Senator Harry Reid, who's the former Senate Majority Leader, who demanded an interview with a general on this subject, and the general said, "Go shit in your hat." Oh, is that a dog barking? Oh, go shit in your hat. I mean, this is an official of the bloody. This is a Pentagon official telling the person who pays him, who gets the money from the taxpayer to give him his nice salary, "I'll go shit in your hat." And it's about time these politicians stood up to these medal-wearing bureaucrats and tyrants. So good.
As part of a cover-up. Kelly?
All right. Evan Lambert, thank you for the update. And Sunday on News Nation, you can see an encore presentation of our
All
news.
right, yeah, they're just repeating the documentary they repeated before. Yeah. So what can we take from that? Well, the first important point is that everything changed. Absolutely everything changed, in my view, when it was announced that Grush was going to testify. Because there's been a lot of speculation. People said, well, this is not going to be much good because David Grush won't be there. A lot of people saying this. There's been a lot of speculation over whether he's not going to be there. And then it was announced that he will. And in the opinion of myself and many others, is the absence or presence of David Grush, along with the others, that are going to be the absolute yardstick for whether or not these hearings are going to be of any use. In other words, if they're not there, it's just going to be another sort of like run through of a bureaucratic bump, rather like the NASA three-hour NASA thing the other few weeks ago. My God, you'll never get those 3 hours back. I'll tell you, that was one of the most boring things I've ever heard. And so we're just thinking, well, if Grush, Fravor, and Graves or anyone else was not going to be there, then people say, well, it's just going to be another whitewash, they said. And to be honest, I would have agreed with them. I would have agreed with them. If those guys were not going to be on the stand, then what's the point? It's obviously then it's just going to be a whitewash. If you're not going to talk publicly to key witnesses, then you're not interested in really investigating anything. But it turns out that Burchett and the others are. Burchett seems like an honest guy, he really does. I mean, listen to him talking, he just comes across as honest. Now, he's a sincere person who cares, I think. I mean, a whitewash is possible at any stage, and it can't be ruled out, but this is a hopeful indicator. What the developments of the last week have been a very hopeful indicator. Last Thursday, Burchett did like a 20-minute press conference where he announced who was going to be there, and it was very popular, had huge views. Ryan Graves, David Fravor are going to be there. This is a good trio of witnesses, actually. And to be honest, some of the commentary I'm getting out of UFO Twitter, there is a kind of "this is it" feel to it. I mean, and as I said, big D disclosure could happen on Wednesday. There's maybe a 5% chance or something like that. But I said I wouldn't get your hopes too high. Let's wait and see what happens. A best case scenario would be that it is a real version of the 2013 citizen hearing. And it will be to a certain extent because of the kind of witnesses that are going to be there. But in my view, it'll probably be a preliminary. I got a feeling this is going to be a preliminary hearing before a series of others. There's going to be more to come after that. That's what I think will happen. That's what I suspect will happen. Right. So I just realised my notes are wrong. You think this was live, wouldn't you? Think, Ben, I bet you'll edit all that out, won't you? No, I'm not going to edit it out. I'm not going to edit it out. All warts and all with this is anyway. So let's have a look. We've listened to post-disclosure world. What's next? Right. Right. This is another News Nation clip I'm going to play now, which is what do we expect from the three witnesses? Let me just I'll go to share screen again. There we go. What do we expect from the three witnesses? News Nation Live. By the way, don't get bitchy with me.
Congressional hearing on unidentified areas.
I'm claiming fair use on all of these things, so I hope they're not going to. I hope some bot won't strike. I mean, I won my appeal last time, but I don't even want to go through this tedious appeal process.
Phenomena, otherwise known as UAP, a highly anticipated public event will be focusing on UFO-related documents and potentially reveal decades of mystery and secrecy, some say.
You see what I mean? They're using words like secrecy. It's credible.
The U.S. government. Joining me now, Matt Ford, a UAP political consultant and Emmy award-winning host of The Good Trouble. Matt, thanks for being here. So I understand.
Never heard of him. He's obviously not that famous.
Stan, you've been advising David Fravor, a retired U.S. Navy pilot who will be testifying tomorrow. He had a close encounter in 2004 with the so-called Tic Tac UFO.
He's CIA. No, I'm only kidding.
What advice have you given him ahead of his testimony?
Actually, I have to say I have not been giving him any advice. I do in the background offer advice.
UAP political consultant. And he lives in Thailand. What's up with UAP political consultant? My God.
Consulting to officials on Capitol Hill that are dealing with this particular issue. But in terms of the witnesses, I have not. But Commander Fravor, I think it would be safe to say he's going to have a lot to say, as will David Grush. And Ryan Graves as well. So I think this is going to be something the American people are definitely going to want to tune in for.
David Grush is the most important of these three witnesses because he's a guy who essentially, as you know from previous videos, he is the guy who essentially he's not just said, I saw this strange thing while I was in my plane. He said, I have distinct information that the government is basically covering up aliens. This exactly as all these conspiracy theorists have said for years.
So, Matt, why should Americans trust these three witnesses who are testifying?
Exactly. Why don't they just trust nice little Joe Biden and his wonderful son, Hunter?
Do you think that they are credible, and how will they share that credibility with lawmakers and with the American public tomorrow?
Well, all of these individuals, I mean, they have held some of the nation's highest security clearances. I mean, for instance, David Grush, he worked in the intelligence world for over 14 years. He was one of the main intelligence officials on the UAP task force. These individuals, they hold the nation's highest clearances. And then when you're talking about Ryan Graves and David Fravor, these men have been entrusted, as are all military pilots, our airmen and women, to handle these multi-million-dollar machines. These vehicles are just not handed to anyone, and they have to have the proper security clearances to operate these things.
Do you think, though, that this conversation stalls again without direct evidence that we don't see better images, videos, and firsthand accounts?
Good question. Yes, I mean some of the backslappers have been asking that question, and to be honest, it's a fair one. It's still going to be. I don't think we can expect any more on this particular. We'll hear what he has to say in a minute, but I don't think we can expect much really any more on this particular hearing than it's basically going to be an official acknowledgement of the things that Grush said before. Grush simply has said he said this evidence exists, but he also says I can't present it to you now. And of course the backslappers have jumped on this and they've said, well, there you are, he's a liar, because David Grush is not. He's not immediately opening out a suitcase onto a table like a bunch of playing cards and saying, look, here's all the UFO documents I'm going to give you. Therefore, he's lying. Even Kevin Randall said this to his discredit. And I don't think it's as simple as that. I think there's more going on. I think, as I said, there's no longer a unified belief of purpose within the establishment for the truth embargo. There are white hats now, I believe. I've explained in detail before what I'm talking about.
Of any unexplained objects?
I don't think so. I think in particular, David Grush is going to offer quite I would say a good amount of a sort of new perspective to this thing. But what I would say,
that's a bloody understatement. As I said, he's the guy who's saying, like, it's not just, well, he's essentially saying, paraphrasing that exopolitical maxim, it's not about lights in the skies, it's about lies on the ground.
Say the most important element that the American people, I think, should be aware of is Congress is very much aware that this is a significant issue. So when you have senators like Kirsten Gillibrand and Marco Rubio, Senator Gillibrand, for instance, sits on both the Senate Armed Services and the Intelligence Committee. These folks are privy to intelligence product that certain members of Congress are not. So you have to just ask yourself, these people, these lawmakers, what they're seeing, they are not going to just, cover this thing just out of the blue without having good reason. The laws that have been passed, none of these laws that are related to UAP, they are not made in a vacuum.
Representative Tim Burchett, who is leading tomorrow's hearing, says the government is lying. But might there also be plenty of reasons why a lot of this information has been classified and may still remain classified?
Well, I think that there certainly are going to be national security reasons for certain elements to be classified. But I had Senator Gillibrand on our show back in May, and I posed a similar question to her. And
well, to see that, yeah, because I mean, sometimes it's necessary to classify things for the purposes of national security, and for many other reasons as well. In the NHS, we dealt with classified information. This was patients' medical records, and I've already explained to you the security procedure for dealing with those. We would literally have them handed to us in a bag with a security tag on, and we had to take them to the ward, and then on the ward they would actually clip the security tag and take it off. And if that security tag was not intact by the time the porter dropped them off in the ward, you'd have some serious questions to answer. You could get into really bad trouble. So yeah, of course. But what we're dealing with here, it's not about like details of what needs to be classified or not. It's the principle of I think this is even Burchett he's talking a lot more simply than this guy. He's using language. It's very refreshing to hear a politician use. Does the state have the right to withhold knowledge from the people that completely changes the way we see ourselves in this universe? That is, we're no longer this little pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan called it, this little oasis of life in an infinite cosmic desert. We are actually just one little rock pool, the Earth is, in a living universe. Does the state have the right not to tell the people that, to keep that information from the people? Of course, there are many. The bureaucrats are so arrogant. They'll say, "Yes, we do." I mean, look what they did during the C word lockdown. They basically treated us as the equivalent of children or even farm animals. But just because they think they have that right doesn't mean they do. As Anna Paulina Luna said, well done her.
And really the question was, do we as Americans have the right to know that we are being interacted with by a non-human intelligence?
Oh, exactly, yeah. So I should just let him speak.
And her response, I thought, was really, really on point. And that was that it is not the place of, let's say, 50-ish non-elected officials to decide that we cannot be told that truth. That is not a national security issue.
Exactly.
Well, we'll be watching closely.
He kind of just repeated. He just said the point I made, really, didn't he?
Matt Ford, thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate talking to you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television
Honestly,
provider.
News
And
Nation.
don't forget.
News Nation, like, this has been like, what's it? This has been kind of their, this has been their, like, greatest moment, isn't it? This has been News Nation's something like heyday. This is their halcyon day that's arrived. It's incredible. Oh yeah, maybe it'll be a lesson for other people. Anyway, where are we now? Got a lot of things I want to watch. Now, first of all, I'm not going to play this, but if you want to, I can recommend something to you, which is this. Where is it? Here we go. This is UFO Rabbit Hole podcast. This is by someone called Kelly Chase.
Show on Fandango.
I'm not going to play this, but
as I'm sure most of you were already aware to comment on.
It's 37 minutes.
And the usual voices from.
But it's here it is. There's a URL. I'm not going to play this for you, but this provides, I think, the most self-contained and comprehensive, and I think interesting analysis pre-hearings. So I recommend you go there. I reckon you give her a sub and just watch this video because I think it's very good. That's all I'll say there. Because I don't want to repeat stuff that she says anyway, right? What else have we got here? There's a couple of other issues I want to go into, which is kind of like corollary. I can never say that word. Right, this is 60 minutes. What's this? This is the truth about UFOs. Channel 7 News. Let's have a watch this because I think Coulthard's on this.
Decades, UFOs have been considered a somewhat fringe topic. Strange sightings, difficult to comprehend.
Not
and
anymore.
Posing the question, are we alone? Well, the US Congress is about to shine a bright light on these mysteries. Tomorrow, the first public hearing will be held by the House Oversight Committee into what's called Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, or UAP. That is observations of events in the sky that can't be identified as aircraft or natural events. It's part of a bipartisan push by American politicians for more transparency on the issue, claiming defence officials are stonewalling their requests for answers. For more, I'm joined by investigative reporter and an expert in this field, Ross Coulthard. Ross, good evening to you. Thanks for joining the latest.
It's a pleasure, Michael.
Now, you looked extensively into these, even written a book on the topic. You've got a podcast as well. This hearing, just how significant is it? What sort of a major moment for the US Congress?
It's the first time in 55 years that there's been any kind of investigation or an attempt by the Congress to investigate the phenomenon of UAPs.
It's more than that, Ross. It's the first time ever that they've attempted to investigate what we conspiracy theorists, which includes you, have been saying for decades.
And this time, there's somebody different. It's a guy I actually interviewed, a bloke called David Grush. He's a former very senior intelligence officer with the National Reconnaissance Office and America's National Geospatial Agency. He's a top spy. He actually used to be involved in writing the presidential daily briefing and delivering it to the White House. And what he's come forward with in his interview with me and his interview with Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal.
The skeptics, sorry, I won't leave that. Has the skeptics explained yet why this guy's trying to commit professional suicide? Not only that, but face up to 5 years in jail. If he goes on the stand tomorrow and swears an oath and says what he told Ross Coulthard, and he's making it all up, he could end up in jail for 5 years. Have Steve Mumbling and Mick West and all these other skeppers, have they explained exactly why he would want to do that? It's very important. He's not, I mean, he's 36, which means he has a potential career ahead of him, a massive potential career ahead of him, you know? I mean, why is he doing this if it's not true? Why is he making these claims if he knows no evidence is going to come to light at all? And that it's just all going to be about his word and his word alone. I asked that to the backslappers. The backslappers who talk about red flags, red flags. Well, they're making so many assumptions. They're making so many assumptions based on their own negativity. Could you see all this? I did put it on screen share, didn't I? Let's carry on.
For a magazine called The Debrief, he's revealed that he became aware during his investigations with the Pentagon.
Is there a subliminal back then? Hang on.
He's revealed that Blumenthal.
I think I saw a subliminal. Hang on a sec.
A magazine called The Debrief.
Yeah, there's a subliminal. Hang on, let's see if I can hit on it exactly.
Being called The Debrief.
No, I think I can't hit it exactly. It's difficult to hit these things exactly. I know, I'll just do, what was it, that thing? You go back. There it is. Oh, yeah. I didn't know this. If you press the comma, it goes back like one frame. You press a full stop, it goes forward one frame. This is it. All right. I don't think there's anything sinister here. I think this looks like some kind of report from another studio that got mixed in with the broadcast. So let's carry on, shall we?
He's revealed that he became aware during his investigations with the Pentagon of the existence, believe it or not, of a non-human intelligence, aliens, for want of another word, engaging with this planet. And he went public with me about it in a very, very strong way. He claims that they've recovered craft, non-human technology. He also claims, believe it or not, that they've recovered bodies.
So will that hearing then have the power?
It's everything we've been saying, we tinfoil hatters have been saying for like more than 70 years. Is he going to say that tomorrow when he's under oath? It's going to be a big test of him. From what Ross says, he's eager to get going. He's actually very, very keen to say these things. So he's not showing any signs of having cold feet.
To properly investigate what he's putting forward as evidence? Will they be able to open up the secret files, so to speak?
Well, this is the other twist. Chuck Schumer, who's the Senate Majority Leader, he's probably the second or the third most powerful man in the Congress. He's actually come forward with an amendment to the defense appropriations, which is just absolutely gobsmacking. It requires the Pentagon, the intelligence community, and private aerospace companies that they suspect might be in possession of this technology to fess up about their possession of non-human technology or bodies.
This surprised me actually when Schumer came out with that. I mean, everything that's happened this last year, it's something I would never have predicted. And if people said that this would have happened, I'd have said that's too good to be true. It sounds too good to be true. Is it? I'll come back to that.
It's quite extraordinary.
What more do you think is likely to come out of these hearings?
Well, believe it or not, Michael, I think we are genuinely on the cusp of an admission by the United States that we are not alone.
My God. Ross, I'm not sure. If you're right, then that's going to be something. It won't happen. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. But tomorrow's congressional hearing could pave the way for another hearing, which would be exactly that. These things have to go in stages, as Steve Bassett said. There's a process. And in government, it's always Steve's very familiar with government process. But it could be like this. Could be another major step forward. And probably the biggest step forward ever towards that. If Ross is right, I hope he is. I really am.
I know I've done documentaries for Spotlight on this, and people laughed at the time and said it's all ridiculous nonsense. But the simple fact is I've known for a while, because I'm talking to people like Mr. Grush and people in the legacy crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs. And whilst I can't literally kick the
it's the Phoenix Lights there,
tires of the so-called alien spacecraft or see the bodies, people have told me that they have. And they've also told this to Mr. Grush. And now this top intelligence... Of
you bring out this box load of files as well, and of course it doesn't work like that.
Official is coming forward to give his evidence under oath, and the Congress is pledging, a bipartisan Congress, by the way. Both sides of politics are very hot on this. Unusually, it's the one thing that the Democrats and the Republicans agree on. They're going to get to the truth of what's being concealed inside the Pentagon, inside the intelligence community, and inside private aerospace. And they very strongly believe, even their draft legislation suggests, that there's been a cover-up.
Well, you'll be watching closely, Ross. I think we will all be watching closely to see if the truth is out there and if we can find it out.
Let's hope so, yeah.
I think we'll both be there, Mike.
Good on you, Ross Coulthard. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I mean, that's Ross he's being very optimistic there, but he may be right to be optimistic. It may be correct. So let's go through my notes here. Right, it's just there's one more thing I want to take a look at, and this is a clip from an interview with Ross Coulthard on Project Unity. So let's just have a watch of this, because this may not be as interesting as it sounds, but it's quite amusing, and I can't help finding it quite fascinating.
It's not just House committees now. It's not just the House Armed Services Committee and the House Oversight Committee. It's now going to be, apparently in mid-next week, the Senate Armed Services Committee will be sponsoring the exact same language, pushing for UAP transparency, you know, the Gallagher-sponsored amendment on the House side. So you'll have 3 committees publicly concerned about industry involvement in crash retrieval. That's historical and groundbreaking. You've got the most powerful authorization committees in Congress, minus the HPSI, the House Permanent Select Committee for Intelligence, sponsoring the exact same language.
It's a good title, isn't it? Ross Coulthard drops UFO bombshell. Yeah.
Language, the SSCI, that's the Senate.
All right, all right. I just want to mention that, as always, this is. All right, this is. I'm claiming fair use on this, but just to let you know, you can hear the full interview on this channel. Just go to this link here. All right, so, and I've watched all of this. All right, and it's over 2 hours there.
And years.
There you go. And this is the full interview. Ross Coulthard, the UFO program, insider sources, giant craft, media stigma, and national security, and you can watch that on Project Unity. Okay, so just to prove to you that I do respect the copyright fair use guidelines.
Select Committee for Intelligence, the Senate Armed Services Committee, and the House Armed Services Committee. And I guess another one that we should possibly name is the Oversight Committee if Tim Burchett gets his go with them. And what he's talking about is, in part, the amendment that Mr. Gallagher has put up, which is essentially saying no funds authorised to be appropriated by the National Defence Authorisation Act for fiscal year 24 may be obligated or expended directly or indirectly, in part or in whole, to conduct or support any activity relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena that is controlled under a classified program that has not been formally, officially, explicitly and specifically described, explained, and justified to the appropriate congressional committees, congressional leadership. It's pretty amazing, this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've forgotten where it is, but
that is Congress basically growing some balls.
You know, Douglas Dean Johnson's written it up the best, where he writes about how the...
And also, of course, I should point out before I forget, this is very focused on the United States, which I'm not a part of. I'm British, never even been to the United States. But the US is not the only country in the world. There are many others, and of course, others will play a role in this, which I'm very interested to see. The US may not be, of course, we've moved on from the Cold War, but even in this multipolar world, the United States is still a major player, even if it's declined in global significance. And as a result, it could still, what happens here, what happens tomorrow, in the Congress could have a knock-on effect on what happens in other countries. Not to the extent that maybe it did in the 1960s or whatever, but it still could happen.
The new Senate intelligence bill that Kirsten Gallagher is pushing, it gives holders of...
Oh, he's mixed up two people here. It's Kirsten Gillibrand and Tim Gallagher. But, you know, so it's kind of like a crafty nihilist situation. They're a Gestalt entity, but yeah. But yeah, they're both very, very good people.
Non-Earth origin or exotic UAP material, 6 months to make it available to the all-domain anomaly resolution office.
Yeah, but Ross, doesn't that just give them 6 months or more to hide their shit?
Good question. Good question. And I'm sure that those behind the truth embargo are thinking exactly that. And but then Ross says something. Ross says something extraordinary now. Have a listen.
Okay. People are going to question what I'm about to say. What if some of that shit is so big it can't be moved?
Sounds like the BBC.
Is that what you're saying, Ross? Is that what you've been told?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
How big is big?
Big. So big, they built a building over it in a country outside of the United States of America.
Yes, I know. You probably noticed that everyone on UFO Twitter is going crazy now, trying to work out where this is. Ross is he's been teasing us now. He's being cagey, but I'll let him finish, then I'll say some more.
I know that sounds preposterous, and I know, oh my God, you can just hear them now, the bleating debunkers.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see this investigated. Let's just see what happens. Let's test these allegations before the Congress. It's very, very easy for people.
Is this going to come up tomorrow? I mean, could this giant UFO? I mean, it might do. You never know.
To go, oh, there's no evidence. Oh, my goodness me. Let's just go away and ignore it. Let's test it. We haven't even got there yet. You know, there's a whole cadre of supposed experts on social media who are saying it can't be, therefore it isn't. And that's been the default for so many years. It can't be, therefore it isn't. Imagine if what Mr. Grush is saying is true. Think about the implications of that. And imagine if, as I've just intimated to you, some of these objects are not capable of being moved because they're too bloody big.
I mean, that's pretty astonishing. Have you said that before?
There is actually a precedent for this. Do you remember the Rich Planet show about that underground pyramid? It was so big that they had to build a roundabout over the top of it. It's somewhere in South Wales. I can't remember exactly where, but Richard went there and he interviewed a local archaeologist, and there's just, it's in the middle of a residential street. You drive along and there's like this roundabout just sitting in the middle of the road where there's no junction. It's like, oh, well, there was a big underground pyramid there covered by a sheet of lead with weird markings on it when they took the lead away and melted it down for like gutters and things like that. But the pyramid must still be there, and they built this pyramid on top of it to hide it. And that's not a UFO. It's not an alien spacecraft, but it's in the same area of like hidden knowledge because it's about constructions built by past civilizations.
No, you're the first. See, I always save something for
exclusive.
You, Joe.
Always save me a little something. No, seriously though, Ross, that's nuts. So you were told by someone, a trusted source, I imagine, that
multiple. Let me just tell you this: I know exactly where it is.
My goodness.
But he won't tell us.
My goodness. Do you think that's going to come to light?
One day.
One day.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
And it's really interesting because it's absolutely gobsmacking that it's being kept as a secret.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Imagine having an object that's so big, it's just not conceivable to move it.
Well, that's possible. I mean, they had a lot of trouble moving the Aztec object. Now, that was real, despite the people claims to the contrary. There's evidence at the site, but Of course, sometimes something, these ET spacecraft can be very large. Look at the Phoenix Lights. I mean, that thing was like a mile across or something. Now, if one of those comes down, you can't exactly put it on the back of a lorry and shove it and put a tarpaulin over it. You can't even put it in the back of a helicopter. How are you going to move it? Suppose it's in one piece and it hasn't fragmented. How are you going to move it? Maybe you can't, and maybe, like you say, you have to keep it at the scene and hide it there. And putting a building over the top of it's not a bad idea. And of course, everyone in the UFO community is going nuts trying to work out where this is. And I made a joke about it. Do you remember on my Isle of Man video when I arrive at Douglas Harbour on the Ben McCree? I point to this rotunda that's built beside the harbour, and I made a joke saying that must be where the UFOs is that Ross Coulthart was talking about, because people on UFO Twitter, they're going to every single like circular building or a building that looks like an alien spaceship, and there are a few. I mean, I'll just, this is a good one. Here we go. Where is it? Here we go. Look at this. I've been to this place. Look at this. This is Evoluon. It's a science museum in Eindhoven, Netherlands. Look at that. It's people are going to, like, here we go. Where is it? There we are. Look at that. You couldn't make that up, could you? Here's another view. Where's the picture of it I was looking at before? You couldn't make this up, could you? You couldn't make this up. Look at that. The building was actually designed to look like a flying saucer, apparently. I've been inside that. It's just a normal building. You go in there and there's like different floors. It's like a science exhibition. I went into it many years ago. It's in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. And I bet you, I haven't actually checked specifically, I bet you someone is going to claim, oh, it's inside that, or that's it, that is the object, and they've disguised it like a normal building. Well, it's actually, that's not it, okay? It's not it. I swear to you, that's not it. I know because I've been inside it. And I wouldn't lie to you now, would I? It's a building that is designed to look like a flying saucer, yeah. And let's go back to Ross. He's nearly finished now. Here we go.
Is on.
Oh, hang on. Oh, where it is? Here we go.
I can't. I can barely even comprehend that.
Yeah. I thought it was bollocks when I heard it too, and most people listening to this will anyway. But yeah, I mean,
is he
just an allegation, but one that I'm, assured should be taken seriously, and hopefully will be being investigated by the Congress. Because again, where did the money come from? What's that money accounted for? The continued security and control of such an object for many decades.
Yeah.
Who's paid for that? What programs have paid for that? Has that been disclosed to taxpayers?
Is anyone living in?
Is really fun inquiry?
Yeah. Is anyone living in the building? Does anyone work there? What is the building? You see, every single interview he's done since then, people have been pumping in and saying, "Come on, Ross, come on, tell us. Where is it?" And he says, "I can't tell you." And he apologizes. He says he's not being nasty about it and saying, "I know something you don't know." No, like some of them do. Some of these supposed insiders and journalists, and pseudo journalists. He's saying, "Look, I would like to tell you, but I can't." He understands, I think, why we're curious. So yeah.
If Congress starts doing its job.
Yep. So do check out the entire interview, because I tell you what, the rest of it is well worth watching as well. The way people are dealing with this within the UFO kind of field, within this field, is there's the skeptics who think it's all nonsense. This is some massive folly that has got out of hand. That basically this kind of climate of woo has kind of infected the entire defense establishment and government. This is what they accused during the Helen Duncan trial. This accusation was made, as well as I explained in my the Last Witch video. Others are saying things like, and of course there's the backslappers who are saying, well, all the people involved are discredited. As soon as someone comes forward and said anything, they go into their past. They find reasons why they might be to be discredited. I mean, the backslappers are currently accusing Ross Coulthart of being a discredited journalist who is into UFOs because it's the only job he can get. When Ross himself explains he's not getting paid for his ufological work, he has a day job as a respectable journalist. He hasn't been sacked or anything. He's not earning any money from his ufological work except from his book sales. So. Things like that. So there's the backslappers and their very cynical attitude. Then there's the true believers like me who say things like, well, no, this is actually there's kind of three categories, and the true believers are split into two camps, and I'm sympathetic to both. One of the camps is that this is a push for willing disclosure. That the white hats have taken over the truth embargo. Whatever you want to call them, you can call them by the 17th letter of the alphabet if you want, or you can use another term. Doesn't matter. But I do believe the white hats exist. I do believe there have been indications since 2016, the 2016 effect, as I call it, that the Illuminati has essentially lost a lot of its power. I believe during 2016, it completely lost control for about 6 months. It has been struggling to get that control back and hasn't achieved it. And one of the weaknesses has led to its loss of authority within the truth embargo, which has led to this white hat pushback, which was the direct cause of the December 2017 revelations. And now these revelations are bearing fruit. This whole process that launched this new ufology phase has come of age. There's something else I need to bring up, though, and it's something very important, and I am sympathetic to this position as well, and it's something we have to be on our guard against. This could be some kind of psyop, and I know there's some of the backslappers are going to say that's what it is anyway. They're going to say that it is it's a psyop to cover up something else. Now, I've explained before how this very fashionable idea that UFOs are just a piece of engineered neo-mythology to launder more down-to-earth intelligence operations, such as spy planes, doesn't fit. It is extremely fashionable to say, well, the government are developing a spy plane and they don't want people to look at it. They don't want people to see it. So they will draw people's attention towards the spy plane, but say it's aliens. And that will somehow keep their secret much safer. It's like, as I explained before, I used the analogy of the bank robber, Policeman, come on, policeman. There's no money buried here, Mr. Policeman. All right, just some unicorn bones. Away you go now. I don't have to repeat that point because I've made it many times on my channel. It doesn't make sense at all. What could be happening is, though, that and I discussed this actually on Third Rail Radio with Trevor. If you don't listen to Third Rail Radio, you should do, Max. It's really good. This is him on BitChute. This is Trevor's BitChute channel here. There we go. That's the BitChute version. But I mean, there's other versions of it as well. This is the Panama Radio notice. So it's just there's the URL panamaradio.blogspot.com. I made this point on Third Rail Radio, which was, what if they're going to play the last card? The last card, as Carol Rosin said. The last card will be evil aliens. What if the Illuminati deep state, whatever name you want to give the bad guys, what if they've got desperate and they're saying now, nothing else has worked. The C word lockdown didn't work. This is why they stopped the C word very quickly, didn't they? They basically, there was an emergency stop on the whole C word lockdown and all the V words that went with it. It's not working. We have to stop this and try something else. If they were desperate, would they try for the evil alien line? Would they try it? Would they come to us and say, all right, we'll hold our hands up, okay? We've been lying to you for 80 years about aliens, all right? But the reason we lied to you is because they're evil, tentacle-headed oinks like in Independence Day, and they're trying to take over the earth, and we've been trying to stop them. We lied to you and kept it from you because it was a national security issue, which incidentally would get them. That would kill two birds with one stone, because then they'd be they would have an excuse for why they'd have an excuse for the other question we'd be asking them, which is, why did you lie to us for all these years? Leaving aside the whole issue of the phenomenon itself and its secrecy, they could say, well, why did you lie to us in the first place about it? And they would say, well, we lied to you for your own good, because there are evil aliens out there and they're trying to take over the world. And now finally we're telling you. The reason we're telling you is because, we are going to have like an Independence Day style attack at some point, and we're scared that they're going to launch massive motherships onto the earth and blow things up. That's what we're scared of. Incidentally, the film Independence Day, this 1996 Roland Emmerich film, is well worth watching. Now, it is an absolutely appalling film. It's abysmal. And I loathe it. I cringe every time I watch it. But it's worth watching for intellectual value, because it's a very simplistic and monolithic piece of propaganda designed to appeal to, actually, frankly, I don't want to sound arrogant here, but it's designed to appeal to very very unintelligent people, and communicate the idea of evil aliens to people who are not very bright. And that could be its purpose. And then the government will say, okay, this is the situation we're in. It's like Independence Day, but it'll be okay. All right. We just need to create an international state of emergency where we take away all your civil rights and have a dictatorial one world government to save the planet from the evil aliens. Temporary, of course. Temporary. All right, just till we've dealt with the aliens, all right, and then that global dictatorship will end, and the power we have taken from the people, we will return to the people. I can't rule out that that's what's going on here. It could be that this is exactly the scam they're playing, and tomorrow we will hear the latest attempt to push that narrative through. Now, if that's the case, I will deal with it. Okay, I will, and I am sure many other social media content creators will deal with that situation. We will, and hopefully we'll be able to cut that. We'll be able to they will cut off that line of propaganda and head it off at the pass, and prevent it from having the impact it's meant to have. We said this before the London Olympics, if you remember. But on the other hand, if I know a lot of the backslappers and the posers are sort of saying, well, let's just assume it's that anyway. Paradigm of prevention. It's better to assume that and be wrong than to not assume it and be wrong. Well, no, that's not true, actually, because if this is a push for willing disclosure, if that's what it is, then it's an opportunity we can't afford to miss, which means we have to tread a narrow path between excessive cynicism and excessive naivety. We have to walk very carefully, tiptoe along this tightrope between the two extremes. And that's what I'm going to try to do. All right, so let's have a look. I think I'm nearly done now. I've got a few little extra bits I want to bring up here. A few little extra things I want to bring up. Oh, right, yeah, the space wire. You may know that. In fact, I'm not sure. I don't think this is the right video to go into this in detail. But Professor Avi Loeb, as you may be aware, has been doing this incredibly daring idea that he can use a magnetic probe to find something on the seabed that is only 1.5 feet across. This interstellar meteor. And I thought, you must be joking. I mean, finding things on the bottom of the sea is very difficult. How long did it take to find Titanic? The Titanic is nearly 900 feet long. This is 1.5 feet across. It's in fragments all over the seabed. But he's pulled up some some pieces. And one of them, it seems to be a tiny piece of wire. It's only 8 millimeters. It's 8 millimeters long, very thin, curled twice. The team thought it might be contamination from the ship, so they swept the decks to see if there were any similar items, and they couldn't find any. The wire is an alloy consisting mostly of platinum and manganese. This alloy is manufactured by humans for use in some laboratory equipment, however, not in the relative composition found in the specimen. I mean, we don't know yet what it is because further tests are going to have to be done to see if the wire does have an extraterrestrial origin. But wires are not formed by a natural process, so it could be artificial. This could be the smoking gun that Professor Loeb is looking for, in terms of like, because he thought that what crashed at the sea might be artificial. If it is, he's gonna have a lot of trouble proving it, but it might be. It might be just that. It could be exactly that. On the subject of Avi Loeb, there's been this is really interesting because there's this article here. Now, this guy I know on Facebook told me about this. This guy's a total skeptic, but I actually quite like him. He's quite a likable guy. He's polite and friendly and funny. What caused Oumuamua's mysterious non-gravitational acceleration? We may finally have the answer. And it talks about Oumuamua and about how Avi Loeb thought it might be I won't read this verbatim, but it's Avi Loeb thought it might be something artificial. It might be something artificial. It says a surprisingly simple explanation from this is a peer-reviewed paper in Nature by Jennifer Berner. Is it Bergner or Berner? A comet traveling through the interstellar medium basically is getting cooked by cosmic radiation, forming hydrogen as a result. And our thought was, if that was happening, could you actually trap it in the body so that when it entered the solar system, it was warmed up and would outgas it, and would outgas that hydrogen? Could that quantitatively produce the force you need to explain non-gravitational acceleration? To her surprise, she discovered that studies conducted in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s revealed that when ice is struck by high-energy particles, similar to cosmic rays, it results with the production and entrapment of a significant amount of molecular hydrogen within the ice. The fact cosmic rays can penetrate deep into ice, converting up to a quarter of the water into hydrogen gas, even at a depth of several meters. Bergner continues, for a comet several kilometers across, the outgassing would be from a relatively thin shell to the bulk of the object. So compositionally, and in terms of any acceleration, you wouldn't necessarily expect that to be a detectable effect. But because Oumuamua is so small, we think it actually produced significant force to power this acceleration. Now, again, I think this doesn't explain why that didn't happen when it was close to the sun, and only happened when it was already heading off into deep space and the temperature dropped to the point where it would freeze. Unless if there's some kind of delayed effect in terms of the heat pulse going through the crust, which didn't actually get to the inside. We've got to ask, well, in such a small object, is that possible? And secondly, why do we not see that with other comets and things like that? What was interesting is the way this skeptic guy I know presented it was, well, there you are. It's been explained, case closed. And I had to explain to him, actually, no, this is a theory. This is not a solution to a problem. We're dealing with an object that no one's ever seen close up. We don't know this. This is just another explanation. But this guy Graham, he's typical. He is typical of that skeptic character or type I told you about in my skeptic talk, where someone provides some kind of explanation. He says, "That's it. End of the story. We have a non-woo-woo explanation, so we're not even going to look at it again. We know what happened." And it's this overconfidence you get from skeptics all the time. But anyway, that's a minor issue there that I want to talk about. So that's, what else is that? I think that is it. Avi Loeb is he's getting a lot of aggravation from people because he's talking about Avi is talking about like how some of the he's found some little balls of metal as well, which he says actually come from interstellar space, and people are saying it doesn't. Where are we now? I had the World Disclosure Day live stream. I think I mentioned this in the live stream, but there's a Canadian politician, Douglas Murray, once said, you're in a serious situation when Canada becomes interesting. Sorry, Canadians. But there's a guy called Larry Maguire. He's an MP. And he's written to Anita Anand, that lady who's the defense minister. He sent her a letter, and he says he wants her to take a serious stand on UAP research. This is the letter here. This is, I don't know if this is, here we go. I'll show you the letter. I think I might have shown you this before anyway. Where is it? Here we go. Larry Maguire MP, Brandon Suris, and there we go. I don't, but this is basically what this. What you can read. You can pause and read this if you want. I'm not going to read it, but I don't know if he mentioned. Does he mention Wilbert Smith in there? Oh no, it's not. He doesn't. Wilbert Smith, very interesting Canadian researcher, radio expert, talks about UFOs long ago in the 50s. But I think what this guy does is he senses the writing on the wall. I think more and more people are doing this. Even some of the skeptics, like Professor Simon Holland and Sam Harris, to a more open and honest extent, are saying, I'm not saying anything too explicit right now, but we were wrong, and at some point we're gonna have to backtrack, and let's see if we can sort of like ease the pressure a bit now and maneuver ourselves up the starting grid, so that when the light goes green, we can sort of get out there and say, oh well, I told you all along UFOs were real, didn't I? Things like that. What else is there? Oh, there's been some bloody awful. This is a news report. Look. This is how the. Do you remember my UFO disclosure video where I talked about where where is it? I talked about the Daily Star, didn't I? Do you remember that article about that Italian case from the Vatican? The backslapper. I was listening to a backslapper radio show today, and he was saying basically. Should I name him? Oh, what the hell! It was Stephen Cambion. It was the Stephen Cambion's Truth Seekers. He said, "Oh, that Italian case, that is the Ponte case. That was debunked 20 years ago." Well, the thing is, it wasn't. This often happens with skeptics, right? And the backslappers as well. They will say things like, "Oh, that was comprehensively discredited," or that was debunked. But when you look into what that means is that a skeptic put a post on a forum saying they didn't believe it. That's not debunking something. A skeptic just saying they don't believe something is not a debunking. All right, that's just a skeptic saying they don't believe something. Any more than a woo-woo saying that they do believe something is proof that it's real. But this is this wonderful headline, this bastion of British quality journalism here. And what a gem this is. Hackers vow to reveal all the world's UFO secrets. Nerds versus aliens. This is about Anonymous. Apparently Anonymous are now saying they're going to hack into the computers and find out the truth about aliens. Well, I wish them luck, but I mean, it could be done. I mean, Gary McKinnon, a private individual, did it. I mean, this is not an idle threat, actually, because Anonymous have had some success. They hacked and damaged and got information and controlled computers of various state and non-state actors, such as the government of Uganda and the Church of Scientology. They've had some major. The cyber war they declare on these organizations went quite well. And this is another one here. Look at this. Oh dear, it's always this Hollywood alien ET. Pentagon chief, the fear of nasty ET surprise keeps me awake at night. Oh, good grief. Somebody beam me up. My goodness me. But anyway, that's the British. I mean, I must say the mainstream media in coverage of this has improved a bit. It has got a bit better. It's could be worse. It could be worse. So what's going to anyway? Right now, it's the evening before the big day, the day before the day after, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. I'm now just getting ready. I'm getting ready to go away to the Glastonbury Symposium. Like I said, if you're going there, I'll see you there. It's a good conference. I mean, my video when I went there in 2010 is still on my channel. If you want to watch my reportage from 2010, because I did go to that one. I remember enjoying it very much. But I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I know I'm going to do everything I can to watch it. If I can't watch it live, I'll watch it on recording. So sometime tomorrow I'm going to watch it. And if you watch it, I hope you enjoy it. invite your friends around, get the popcorn out, get some beers in. Treat it as best thing to do is to treat it as a form of entertainment. I would say. Think of it. I suppose it's for we UFO tinfoil hatters, we woo-woos. This is the equivalent of like the FA Cup final for football. The best thing to do, I recommend, is to treat it like that. Invite your mates around, get some beers in, sit around on your lounge with some snacks and drinks, and just have fun. That's the best way. I think that's the best thing to do. You have to have fun in this business because it'll depress you. If you don't, you'll just get depressed. So enjoy. That's what I'd say. Enjoy, have fun, enjoy it. And that's what I'm going to do. And if what happens, depending on what happens tomorrow, I may get my laptop out and see if I can do a quick report or something for you on the channel, or maybe put something on Hapanmo Voice, and a written article on Hapanmo Voice. So check, keep your eye out on keep watching the Hapanmo Voice blog, because I know not all of you read it, but here it is. Here we go. This is it. This is the homepage here. Just hapanmo-voice.blogspot.com. Just keep your eye on that, because I update that most days. Okay, so I may put something on that, and or I may do a live stream or video, depending on how major and how serious what happens tomorrow is. My guess is tomorrow won't be Big D Disclosure Day, but I think my guess is it's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be very significant. It could lead to other hearings and other events that might lead to Big D Disclosure. It might lead to them. We shall see. Anyway, whatever you're doing, if you're coming to the Glastonbury Symposium, see you there. If you're not, I'll be quiet until Monday evening. Then I will be on Terry Joyce's. I'll just show you the channel. Hang on, here we go. She tends to go live, Terry. She's mostly a live streamer, but you probably know this actually, because she's quite well known in this field. That's it. I'll be on this channel here on the live. Just click the live tab there, and you'll see me. All right, and that's what I'll be doing at 8 p.m. on Monday. Before then, I'll be doing Third Rail Radio. I've already showed you the page for that. I'll be doing a report with Trevor Murray, my Canadian co-host, on that issue. And then after that, I will do like a big breakdown with you guys on a live stream or something. All right. There'll probably be a live stream. I'd say Tuesday the 1st of August. I'd probably be a good day to do a live stream if I can. So have a lovely weekend, all of you. I'll be back soon. Thank you for watching Hapanmo TV. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.